All right, welcome back to another edition of Sling Paint Gaming. I'm Berto, and tonight we're going to do another Listinator review here. So we actually moved a lot of our community forums onto Facebook, and if you guys look at the links below, you'll see all of our Facebook groups that we have here. We'll start actually sharing those a lot more than our community. We're actually sunsetting our community because I think we're just actually on Facebook a lot more. So I have an interesting list here that actually Matt posted up on our Facebook group, and he was talking about some of the things that he was doing on it, and it's got a nasty alpha strike, and especially with the current meta that's out there, looking at this list, it attacks and it hits hard, and basically because it's all high PS ships, right? Basically what happens is it actually can knock out one of your opponent's ships almost right off the board instantly. Now, I'm just going to go right over this list here because it's actually an interesting build. I kind of like the mechanics of this list here. So let me switch over to the view here. Let's bring this up. All right, so I don't know if he gave it a name. Actually, we're going to have to give this a name here. But basically, so MattT, this is what he put up here. He's got Norra Wexley, Wedge, and Airen Kraken. Yes, you heard it. Norra, Wedge, and Airen Kraken. I love this because, I know Blake's going to love this list because, first of all, Norra Wexley, he's a big fan of Norra Wexley and using Norra Wexley. And just Norra Wexley's ability and the standard loadout you normally put on Norra. But with the combination of Wedge and the combination of Airen, this list actually hits pretty hard. Now, the first thing you look at over here in the top right, you can see that he's running in at a 98-point bid. All right, so with a 98-point bid, he's probably going to, have the decision of giving initiative or not. So this is the interesting, and also you'll see these lists here. He's actually running almost all 9s. When you look at Norra, Norra's not a 9, Norra's a PS7. Well, let me do this. Let me first give the breakdown of all these lists, of all the ships here and the cards. And then we'll go into if there's any tweaks, and then also how would you fly and how would you fly against it and some of the mechanics related to this. All right, so Norra Wexley, Arc 170, PS7. It's a 2 attack out the front and back. 1 agility, 6 hull, 3 shields. Got the focus, target lock, and barrel roll. And Norra's ability is when attacking or defending, you may spend a target lock you have on the enemy ship to add 1 focus result to your roll. Okay, all right, I like that. I love her ability. Would push the limit. Okay, with 3 points. Once per round after you perform an action, you may perform 1 free action shown in your action bar, then receive 1 stress token. But with the dial of this ship, is amazing. You're going to relieve a lot of that stress. Now, the reason why he has that push the limit, because he wants to take usually the target lock and focus actions, right, for his ship, and you'll see why in a sec here. Now, Tail Gunner, when attacking from your rear-facing auxiliary firing arc, reduce the defender's agility by 1 to a minimum of 0, which is awesome because it reduces that person's agility. Basically, they're rolling 1 less green die. Now, but this is only out the back, the rear-facing firing arc for this. So, but with the combination of R2-D2 and Tail Gunner, and with the Alliance Overhaul title, which we'll get into a sec here, this ship is an excellent end game ship, or mid to end game ship, because with the R2-D2, with recovering shields, whatever barrage that you take, having this ship at the end, especially with Tail Gunner, when people are chasing you, right? They don't want to chase you, right? And they're going to be chasing you. You're going to run from them, and you're going to let them chase you, and you're going to shoot out the back, and guess what? You're going to drop their agility by 1. It's awesome. Now, with R2-D2, after executing a green maneuver, you may recover 1 shield up to your shield value. That is awesome. Only the Rebels have the regen, and it's awesome ability to have R2-D2 for 4 points. If you think about it, a shield upgrade is 4 points. Okay, for 1 shield. If you get off R2-D2 several times off in the game, this card pays for itself over and over and over again, as long as you're doing green maneuvers. And you want to do green maneuvers because of push the limit. So let's get into vector thrusters. Vector thrusters, basically your action bar gains the barrel roll action icon, which is nice because that gives you some more flexibility. And then the Alliance Overhaul title, with when attacking with the primary weapon, your primary firing arc, you may roll 1 additional attack die. When attacking from your auxiliary firing arc, you may change 1 of your focus results to a crit result. Okay, do you see what's happening here? So when you're rolling with your primary weapon, let's say for the initial engagement, right, you're getting an initial attack die. So your attack die just went up to 3 if you're shooting from range 2 to 3. And if you're shooting at range 1, that's 4 dice out the front. And with the back, because of tail gunner, all right, even though you're only shooting 2 dice out the back, you're getting some dice mechanics here. And especially with Norra's ability, when attacking and defending, you may spend a target lock. You have an enemy should add a focus result. If you add a focus result, right, to your roll, spend that target lock to add a focus result, and you took a focus and a target lock action, right, you can spend your target lock to get that ability, and you spend your focus results to basically change and modify your dice. All right, to put out maximum damage, and then tail gunner drops that person's agility, almost like you're shooting at the front, but even better because you get to change one of your focus results to a crit result. So, I mean, that's not that too shabby. So you actually don't even have to spend your focus token too, right? If you have a focus result and you added a focus result from your target lock, you get to change that to a crit. How awesome is that? All right, and coming in for 29 points, that's a standard Norra Wexley build. It's powerful. It's a great both beginner, middle, and end game, especially end game with R2-D2 with regen, and with 6 hull and 3 shields is a beefy ship. Now let's get into Wedge. Okay, so Wedge coming in at 29 points total for this whole total build list. He is a PS9, which is awesome. 3 attack, 2 agility, 3 hull, 2 shields, focus, and target lock. His ability says when attacking, reduce the defender's agility value by 1 to a minimum 0. You start seeing the theme here? Okay. But now he's got swarm tactics. At the start of the combat phase, you may choose one friendly ship at range 1. And until the end of that phase, treat that chosen ship as if its pilot skill was equal to your pilot skill. Well, Wedge with swarm tactics making Norra a 9, right? If you choose that, guess what? Norra is shooting first. And with the 98-point bid, right, and also with all 9s, you're going to probably be shooting first. And if you can PS kill, and if you guys don't know what PS kill means, PS kill is, let's say if you have an opponent that has lower pilot skill values, right, if you're shooting first, right, you can take a ship off the board before they even get a chance to shoot. That is nasty. All right, so swarm tactics, I love it for 2 points. You can't go wrong. You can match the pilot skill value of 9. So he's got Proton Torps on Wedge, with spend your target lock to discard this card to perform this attack. It's range 2 to 3. It's shooting 4 attack dice. You may change one of your focus results to a crit result. And guidance ship says once per round when attacking, you may change one die result to a hit result, or a crit result if your primary weapon value is 3 or higher. Okay, so potentially you're getting almost putting out 2 crits there, and you're getting some dice modification between Proton Torps and guidance chips, that even though you're rolling 4 dice and you already spent the target lock to shoot the protons, you're actually getting some dice modification. So let's say if you're rolling 4 dice and let's say 50-50 shot, you're going to roll a hit, right, or hit or a crit, right, with attack dice. The other, you might get a focus result and a blank, or 2 focus results. You're still putting out almost more damage out totally. So that this combination of proton and guidance chips is nasty just to begin with. And also with Wedge's ability, when attacking, reducing the defender's agility by 1, they're rolling 1 less green die on top of it. Again, nasty. So, and also with proton torpedoes being a secondary weapon, if you're shooting them at range 3, they don't get the extra defensive dice to begin with. So I love this combination of Wedge. The only negative on this, which we'll get into the tweaks, is it's a one-time deal with Proton Torps, all right? So you got to make a count. So we'll get that into the tournament when we talk about tweaks. All right, you got Airen Kraken in the Z95 Headhunter. You don't normally see this ship out on a board, but he's a PS8. Okay, you with 2 attack dice, 2 primary attack, 2 agility, 2 hull, 2 shield. Little light, but it's got the focus and target lock. And it says after you perform an attack, you may choose another friendly ship at range 1. That ship may perform 1 free action. Are you seeing what's happening here? Okay, yes, this is a little bit of handshaking going back and forth, but for that initial alpha strike, which we'll get into a little bit here, that is nasty. Now with adaptability, he's going to make that, he's going to choose the side A where it increases the pilot skill value by 1. He's going to make that PS8 a PS9. So now Airen Kraken's a 9, Wedge is already a 9, but with swarm tactics, he's making Norra a 9. So they're all 9s, and they're going to be shooting first, more likely, unless you have some guy that put, like Vader with making Vader with VI with PS11 or something like that. But 9 times out of 10, especially in the current meta, you're going to be shooting first. And with Airen Kraken, right, he's got concussion missiles on it. It says attack, target lock. You have to have the target lock on it. Suspend your target lock and discard this card to perform attack. It's 2 to 3, range 2 to 3, 4 dice. You may change one of your blank results to a hit result. And in guidance chips, again, once per round when attacking with a torpedo or missile, you may change one of your die results to a hit result or a crit result if your primary weapon value is 3 or higher. Well, because his primary weapon is only a 2, you're only changing it to a hit. All right? But now, coming in a total of 23 points here for this, 35 for Wedge, and 40 for Norra Wexley. All right, this is a beautiful build coming in at 98 points total. Now, let me explain to you what's going to happen here. So let me first talk about tweaks. All right, I probably would not modify too much with this. Right, I would probably keep everything exactly the same. I like the 98-point bid because you can make sure that you can kind of get some underneath those other 9s that are going to be out there if you still see a Fen Rao on the board. But a lot of when you see Fen Rao and Rao boats, usually they're around 99 points, 100 points. They're trying to maximize all their torpedo loadouts and all that stuff with Fen Rao. And some of the other builds that you're seeing out there, you know, depending on what you're flying, you see 99 points or 98 points. But I think I like the 98 points with all these 9s. Now, Norra's not a 9 again, but with Swarm Tactics, Wedge is making Norra a 9. He's going to declare that every at the start of the combat phase. But this is, so I really wouldn't touch anything. I'd probably leave this as is. The only negative from a tweak perspective that I see with this is, besides Norra, Wedge and Airen Kraken don't have too much maneuverability, okay? So this is all about the Alpha Strike. Now, if you can get this Alpha Strike hit off, all right, it's going to be a nasty, nasty, nasty Alpha Strike. So this is what I'm thinking is going to do. So let's talk about how you fly this list. Well, you saw about Swarm Tactic and Wedge. All 3 ships, I believe, will probably kind of be lined up next to each other in some kind of formation, a box formation, offset formation. Or if they're not lined up next to each other, they're going to try to engage their opponent in a same area at the same exact time. So if they're a little bit further away from each other, just kind of split up those 9s and try to give the opponent a different target. Or they might go head to head. With this, with PS9s, you're probably, you know, and you see torp boats, or if you see the new Scourge bombers with a loadout of missiles and cruise missiles and what have you, guess what? You're going to probably take one and potentially badly damage another one right off the board. If you see Fen Rao, you're probably going to take Fen. If you have an opportunity to shoot at Fen Rao, you're probably going to take Fen Rao off the board if you have where you're moving last. So Fen Rao doesn't, you know, arc dodge you. But let me show you how this works here. Airen Kraken's the key here. Okay, so the Airen Kraken is probably going to be the first ship that shoots. So when you start, when you're starting your ships and you're lining them up, you probably want to put them in formation. I would probably put them in a flat formation, either up the middle, down the side, so give you some flexibility depending on where your opponent is. More likely, you're probably putting your ships down last. Depending on what your opponent has, you're probably going to want to maybe, I don't want to say, joust these ships, but with your Alpha Strike, you might want to joust these ships because you need all 3 ships to fire. They're all at the same exact time. So looking at this with Airen Kraken, you want to shoot him first. Because he's dealing out potential hits with the concussion missiles and guidance chips because of his primary weapon is only 2, he's only going to do out hits. You want Airen Kraken to strip the shields off whatever ship you're shooting at. That's what this Airen Kraken is there to strip the shields off a ship. Because the reason why I say that, and this is for like the ships that have like a lot of hull and a lot of shields to go through. If it's just another if it's another low shield, low hull ship, this Airen Kraken might wipe them right off the board. But looking at this, after you perform an attack, you may choose another friendly ship at range 1. That ship may perform a free action. Okay, so what are you going to do? So after you perform this attack and you potentially strip the shields off, okay, off the ship, what you can do is you can potentially either give yourself a focus token because I'm sorry, not Airen Kraken, but you can give focus token to Wedge. because Wedge is going to do a target lock because he wants to get off those torpedoes. So he can probably do a focus to help out with some defense and or some more dice manipulation on top of that. And or he can potentially give an action, maybe a barrel roll action to Norra Wexley for whatever reason, maybe to get into range 1 or something, to maybe get it just a little bit closer with vector thrusters. Again, this is some of the options that Airen Kraken's doing. I probably would go for more dice manipulation than anything, so maybe I might focus token with Wedge, give a double focus token. Or, or like I said, give the barrel roll action maybe to get a little bit closer so I'm shooting a 4 dice primary at my attacker to begin with. But right after Airen Kraken shoots and hopefully strips the shields off, now you got Wedge. Okay? So Wedge already declared Norra, Swarm Tactics a 9, just as like his Wedge is. All right? He's going to be shooting Proton Torps. And with guidance chips, because he's got a primary attack value of 3, he's potentially putting 2 crits through. Okay? Crits are nasty, especially with low hull ships or what have you. If you get a double damage, because I think there's like 7 of them, direct hits, which is a double damage, that 1 hit counts as 2 hits, that is crucial. Or you can cripple another ship by doing that. Also, with Wedge's ability, reducing the attacker's, the defender's agility by 1. All right. Let's say if you are shooting at Fen Rao, well, because if you're shooting at Proton Torps, they're only going to get 3 dice. Now, if Fen Rao's in range 1 of you, you really can't get off the Proton Torps, and guidance chips don't work. But that's okay. You can still have a target lock, and if you get a focus token from Airen Kraken, a range 1 shot from Wedge is still going to hurt just as much with a focus token and a target lock, and because it's 4 dice. And reason why, all right, is if you look at the dice statistics, if you are rolling 4 dice with a target lock and a focus, you're almost guaranteed 3.9 hits. Okay, out of all standard rolls and what have you. That's insane, right? And with Wedge's ability, you're reducing the defender's agility value by 1, so you're actually even helping more of those hits get through on top of it. But let's say if you do get the Proton Torps and the guidance chips, right? Potentially you're crippling a ship. Now with Airen Kraken and Wedge, this combination I would definitely save for some kind of ship that's got like a lot of shields and a lot of hull to eat through. Unless you only have like a Fen Rao or some kind of other ace in front of you for whatever reason. But that, I mean, it's going to hurt. All right, it's going to hurt your opponent, and potentially you can PS kill one of your opponent's ships, maybe even 2 of their ships, depending on what your kind of damage output you're putting through. And the best part about this is that was just Airen, and that was just Wedge attacking. Now you got Norra attacking because she's also a PS9. All right. So with her being a PS9 with Alliance Overhaul, all right, you're rolling from your primary firing arc of rolling 1 additional die. All right. With rolling 1 additional die, if you basically target lock and focus your results, you have some options here. You can use her ability. It says when attacking and defending, you may spend a target lock. You have an enemy ship to add 1 focus result to your roll. Now, if you rolled all blanks, all right, you might want to spend the target lock to re-roll. If you roll half blanks and some hits and this and that, you have different outs and combinations that you can do with the push the limit here. And the great part about it is by the time Norra's shooting, any big, large ship or some small base ship that's got a lot of hull like a Skurg or anything like that, you're going to rip right through it. It's going to hurt. TIE Defenders, Matt was talking about a lot of TIE Defenders. Like if somebody was playing still Defenders out there, even though they're rolling 3 defense dice, or any other ships, aces that are out there, especially Imperial side of the house, even some of the, like if you're shooting at Dengar, if you get Dengar with Airen Kraken and Wedge, by the time you get to Norra, you're probably taking Dengar off in 1 turn, especially because it's a 2 agility. Because Wedge is dropping the agility, Airen Kraken, with his things giving a free action. So there's just so many different outcomes that you can do here that can wipe off a ship off the board. And if you can do that in 1 turn, even though you spend your munitions both on Airen and Wedge, because they're both 9s, they're still shooting first. Okay? And then even if you lose Airen Kraken or Wedge, all right, you're going to have Norra, which is a little bit beefier, and especially with R2-D2, and especially with the tail gunner and the Alliance Overhaul combination, if people are chasing Norra down with that rear arc, all right, of shooting, people are going to have a hard time taking Norra down. Usually, when I see Norra on the board, and usually if she's at around 40 points, and usually 40-point build, I'm usually trying to go for time, because there is no way in hell that I can't get Norra. So if I'm in a good position where I still have combination of ships, I am not going to chase Norra unless I can put all my ships on Norra, and within 2 turns or a turn or so, probably 2 turns, take Norra off the board, even if she just does regen in one of the turns. The only negative side from Norra's perspective is Norra's predictable. So let's switch this right into how do you fly against this list. Well, right off the bat, if you're flying low agility ships, you're going to have problems with this list. All right? You're going to have problems with this, definitely the Alpha Strikes. And with a PS9 Alpha Strike, it's going to hurt. Now, the thing is this. If you know and can afford to lose a ship, I know nobody ever wants to lose a ship. I mean, that's kind of like against the whole grain of the game. Everybody wants to still fly their own ship, keep all their ships there. But if you're facing this and you're willing and you're moving last, know that Airen and both Wedge do not have any repositioning ability. So keep that in mind. So when they're thinking they're going to try to slow roll you, that's the way I look at this. So if I saw this list coming at me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be an Alpha Strike. All right, that's going to be a PS Alpha Strike. That's going to hurt. So I know that, the first initial engagements, he might slow roll, right, for me to get into range to shoot the concussion missiles on Airen Kraken first, and then the proton torps from Wedge. And then he's going to try to finish me off with Norra. Or if he does, potentially he can knock 2 ships off the board if I try to joust him. You don't want to joust this list, okay? What you do want to do is take away as much actions as you can. If you are able to set up a block of some sort, right, you want to block Airen Kraken, you want to block Wedge, and you got to be careful about Norra. If you can block Norra's ability to take an action, that's going to shut down her ability as well. The biggest thing with this list is if I was flying, let's say if I was flying 3 Skurgs or Skurgs and Fen, or actually one of the new lists that you see out here that a lot of people have been flying is they call a Fair Ship Rebel list, but with all the new Wave 11 stuff. So you have Lowrick, you have Jess Pava, you have potentially either Skurg or Norra or some kind of other combinations, and basically a 4-ship Rebel list, and also Biggs to basically take the hit. Right, if you're flying that list, let's say against this list, right, you're going to potentially lose Biggs right off the bat. All right, so that's definitely going to hurt. Now, do you target Biggs off the bat? I probably would, but Lowrick and other abilities are going to take some hits from that. So do you target Lowrick? So there's a lot of different things that you can do here, but know what the weaknesses of this list is. The weaknesses of this list is that Wedge and Airen don't have repositioning ability. Okay, and also the weaknesses is their one-time shots. Proton for Wedge and Airen for concussion missiles are all going to go off once, and that's it. The biggest strength of this list is going to be Norra Wexley. All right, especially because you do not want her in the end game. If you got her in the end game, you're going to potentially have problems unless you still have a lot of ships left. Wedge is, like I said, Wedge is Wedge. Now, Wedge is not a T-70 X-Wing. He's just a regular X-Wing. So you're not going to see a Talon roll, right? You're just going to see a regular 4K turn. Wedge is also lighter on shields. Usually the T-70 has 3 shields. This has only 2 shields. So keep that in mind. And it's only still rolling 2 agility dice. All right? The biggest thing with this is you have to set up some blocks, like I was saying before. Blocks are going to be key because if you take away their actions, you take away the ability to shoot off their proton torps because they can't get target locks. Or other things. But now note, Airen Kraken with the Kraken's ability, right? Choose another friendly ship at range 1. And this ship may that ship may perform a free action. Even though let's say you block Wedge, he may still get the target lock from Airen Kraken because Airen shot first. So remember that. So the biggest thing is not even just taking away abilities. You got to be careful. So you try to get into that range 1 hole that you can get into. You got to try to block with Airen and Wedge. The other thing too is if you do happen to get the ability to actually arc dodge. And let's say if you're running at 97 points, or if you're running at 98 points and you won the decision of initiative and you gave him initiative where he's got to move first and stuff, the cool part about that is you have an opportunity to arc dodge, so you can see where he goes and then potentially move out of the range, move out of his arc and what have you. The biggest thing, like I said, that if I was facing up against this list, I would try to see if I can get Norra off the board as soon as I can. If I'm able to take the shots from both Wedge and Airen Kraken and let them, and maybe lose a ship in the process, right? But if I'm going to be able to focus fire on Norra and try to get Norra off the board, that would be my goal. That's the biggest thing. Know that this list is also probably going to be flying in some kind of formation or close, or they're going to try to pick an engagement spot where they all can meet in the middle. This is, I always say all lists are beatable, right? I mean, every list is beatable. It all depends on how you play it, what you play, what's rock and asteroid placement. The biggest thing with this, I would think, is if I'm facing this list, is I would try to get in range 1. Now you're like, well, why would you want to get into range 1 of this? Well, I would try to get in range 1 because I don't want the dice manipulation of guidance chips and proton torps for Wedge. I don't want the dice manipulation of concussion missiles and guidance chips. I want to be able to get in range 1 to take on the natural the natural die rolls of the primary attack. That sounds really counterintuitive, but if you think about it, what would you rather have from a mathematics perspective, from a statistical perspective? Would you rather have almost a guaranteed 3.9 hits and crits going through, or would you rather have almost a 50-50 shot depending on what actions? Now, if I can bump them and take away some of their actions, again, it lowers that probability even lower. So keep that in mind. But this, I would also try to drag this list into, because it's trying to stay formation-wise and trying to stay close together so they can all shoot at the same time. The other weakness to this list is focus fire. If you're able to position yourself where all 3 ships of this list are not shooting at one ship, all right, is going to help you as well. So one of 2 of your ships may be badly damaged afterwards, but they survived that initial attack. And again, just like because Wedge and Airen, especially Airen, does not have any repositioning ability, it actually helps you in the longer run, especially if you have ships that can reposition themselves. So keep that in mind as well too. Is try not to let your this list focus fire you, because it will focus fire you, and it's going to shoot first, and it's going to hurt like hell. But I think Matt put here together a phenomenal list. I actually probably was thinking about putting this on the board. I would love to see what it does against some of the Wave 11 stuff that came out. Another actually thing that I was thinking about, what would also hurt this list, is bombs, especially if you're running like the new bomblet generator, or if you have like a Miranda in your list here, which is always hard to track down, right? But if you have a Miranda and you're able to drop some, or if you even have, let's say, 3 K wings and you're running the triple Ks, and it's all bombs, right? Because Wedge and because Airen Kraken doesn't have any repositioning ability, and they're 9s, if you're lower PS and you're going to be moving first, you can set up bombing runs where they're going to walk right into your bombs, or you can advance slam and drop bombs right on top of them. That's going to hurt them tremendously a lot as well. You're starting to see a lot of lists, and this is to kind of Fantasy Flight's whole thing is they're trying to make everything balanced and equal, but you're starting to see a lot of lists that have a little bit of everything, that have a little bit of secondary munitions or some kind of proton torps and missiles. They also have a little bit of bombs. They also have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, small ship with a lot of hull. They have an ace. They have a mixture of different things. You're starting to see a lot of those lists come out. So that the weakness to the bombs on this list is going to be tremendous. Now, Norra can take a lot, and she potentially regen, but if you get the right bombs through, and if you're able to get a couple bombs through consistently, all right, and you're out of her arc, right, and everybody's like, well, how do you get out of her arc if she's got a rear arc and a front arc? The sides are pretty big, right? If you can position that, you're gonna Norra Wexley. The other negative to Norra Wexley is she's very predictable. All right, what she's gonna do dial wise. So like if I switch over to Norra Wexley, you can see that her dial 1s and 2s for both straights and banks are green maneuvers. All right. If you're pushing the limit, that she's going to do one of those those 6 maneuvers right there to relieve that stress, because she wants to relieve that stress in order to, so she has, action that she can take the next turn. So that's the only negative to Norra, is that she is predictable as far as maneuvers. But if you can figure that out, you can position yourself on the side. There was a couple times I played against Norra where I parked my ship right to the side of where I think Norra's going to be, because I think Norra's going to do a 2 straight because there's a rock to the left and there was nothing to the right, where either Norra did a 2 bank and bumped into me, but because she bumped into me, she couldn't shoot me, all right, and lost her actions, or I paralleled right next to her because I think she was going to do a 2 bank, and I'm like, she's going to be right here. That would be right out of her arc. She couldn't barrel roll because I'm too close to her still. And then I have an auto blaster turret, or then I have something else. So keep that in mind as well if you're facing something, especially with Norra. She's beatable, but you don't want her in endgame because you're just going to have a lot of problems. You want to try to get her off the board as soon as possible. So we kind of broke the list down, right, that Matt put together here, which is just a nasty list. If I can see this list doing very, very well. We talked about some of the tweaks, which I kind of probably would keep everything just as is. I like the mechanics. He doesn't have too much handshaking going around here, but it's but a lot of the handshaking that goes around is for that initial alpha strike, and then I think the ships are still viable once that alpha strike is done. And we talked about how you would play with this list and how the mechanics work and why you want certain Airen to shoot, then Wedge, and then Norra to clean up. And or if you're able to one shot a ship off the board, and then you have Wedge and Norra shooting at a second ship, potentially taking it off the board, you can PS a lot of kills. So we talked about how you would fly this list, and you kind of want to stay in formation because of that range 1 ability, especially with swarm tactics, making Norra a 9. And we also talked about how you want to fly against this list if you do see something like this list on this board. The biggest thing is, just know the strengths and weaknesses of this list. You don't want to joust this list. You don't want to go up against this list straight, head on, especially if you're in the range 2 to 3 area, because he's just going to light you up. He's going to light you up and you're going to spit you out. He's going to be able to even if you're rolling 3 dice and you're tokened up, you're going to be hurting, especially with Wedge dropping your ability 4 dice. Let's say if you're rolling 3 dice, all right, and you're focused, right, as your thing, even if if you took an evade action instead of a focus, right, you're going to have a hit or crit go through, especially with Airen Kraken shooting you first, and then Wedge is putting crits through, and then Norra is just doing some nasty damage cleanup after that. So it's just a nasty combination. All right, so Matt posted this list up on our Facebook group. What do you guys think of this list? What do you guys like? What do you dislike? What would you change? How would you tweak it? Definitely leave it in the comments below. Also, remember, like I said, if you guys have any lists that you want us to take a look at and just kind of discuss and talk about, definitely post them up in our Facebook community for X-Wing. I'll put the link down below. But definitely hit us up. I mean, this is just, like I said, it's an interesting, crazy list that I actually kind of like because it's all 9s, and it's got alpha strikes, and then they're pretty viable ships in the end game too, especially if you have Norra with regen there. So definitely leave it in the comments below. All right, if you guys like this video, definitely give it a like below. Also, if you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them in the comments below. Check out our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram. All the links are also below. And if you guys want to help support us, check out Team SPG, and also check out our token store and our t-shirt store. When you guys purchase stuff from there, that actually helps us do more videos and more cool stuff. All right, so let me I think the biggest thing out here is definitely a thank you, huge shout out to Matt as far as posting this list up and let me do a review on this list. I love it. I think it's, like I said, he was talking about doing like, I could probably wipe off 2 ships off the first turn, depending on what they are. If they're in your arc and you can get them, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, it's a nasty, hard hitting list. It's a nasty alpha strike, especially being PS9s, and then no repercussion fire or no return fires is always going to be nasty. All right, if you guys, again, just leave it a like below and definitely leave it in the comments below. Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure. Take